Ladies and gentlemen, 4 years ago, we sat right here and we recorded our very first show.
We did.
And we thought, what better way to celebrate our 100th episode than to go back to episode 1.
Yes.
Re-edit it, reproduce it as if we were putting it out today and release it as a special celebration of episode 100.
Indeed.
And that is what's right here, isn't it?
Yes.
In this episode, you're going to find out who taught Kate in it.
Who we are.
You're going to find out who we are. You're also going to find out who taught Meat in it. Mm-hmm. You're going to find out some of the podcasts that
we used to
and inspired us. And what we've also done is, if you look below, there's an extensive set of show notes. So everything we talk about is all listed with links. And for those things that no longer exist, they're listed and I marked next to them because there are a couple, which is such a shame. But that happens, doesn't it, in 4 years? Things come and things go.
They do.
But this is it. I hope you really, really enjoy it.
Yes.
And
weird watching it.
But it's been a really wonderful experience to go back to it and to make it look as good as we
as good as you possibly can.
As we could. You know, we didn't film it on the best camera. We didn't use the best microphones. But when we filmed that, sat right here, we thought we were just filming one episode. And it's, you know, lovely to think of the journey that we've been on from episode 1 to episode 100. And do you know what I can't wait for?
What?
I can't wait for
101.
I can't wait for 101 because that is a new beginning, people. But what I can't wait for is episode 200.
200.
When we come back here, maybe we'll sit down and we'll do the same thing to episode 2.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe we will.
Yeah.
But you know, folks, I'll leave you with this one thought. We may be up to 100 episodes, but we're just getting started.
We are.
Oh yes. Because there's so many projects which we've had to sort of pause as we got other things right. And as the Patreon campaign continues to grow, that's when we'll start branching out and maybe even producing some brand new shows with brand new presenters.
Who knows?
How exciting. So, less from us and more from the
us.
4-year younger us. Through the magic of television, let's travel back in time and enjoy the very first Bakery Bears podcast. Good?
I'm good.
Cool. There is a mountain of socks in the bedroom and they're all yours.
I think there's not a mountain.
Okay. Can we move on to our next section?
Yes, sorry.
No, it's fine. Because I'm sure the people at home want to see what's off your needles.
Oh, hello. There she is.
That sounded like someone off a kids' programme.
Did I?
A small
Just
pillow.
a small hillock of socks. Look,
No.
Look.
Mrs. Doubtfire. Oh, hello.
Oh, I did
buddy.
And I loved it.
Look, woman.
What? Am I running away? Am I getting ahead of myself? Hello, children. No. So that I'm going off the other. Everything's backwards. So I'm.
Yay!
Mrs. Bakery Bear.
That sounded all Welsh then.
You did sound Welsh.
She's lovely.
She's lovely. Oh, it's not backwards. That's clever.
It is clever. I sort of can't believe we're finally here, actually. Rather strange to be welcoming people to the Bakery Bear cottage. How exciting! My name's Dan, isn't it?
It is. My name is Kay.
And we have a guest presenter today as well.
We do.
Where is she?
This is... Oh, her button's undone.
Hey, that's a bit rude.
Her button's
Do a
undone.
dress up. You dirty girl.
Her button's undone. I'll do that in a second. This is Mrs. Bakery Bear.
I like the shoes.
I like the shoes.
Look at the sparkly bits.
She's very sparkly.
Cool.
She's a sparkly girl. Hello.
Where did you get those from, actually? I've not seen them.
The buttons?
Yeah.
There's a tiny little shop in a town that we used to live in, actually, It's about an hour from here, called Harrogate, and there's a little shop, and it's called Duttons for Buttons.
That's a cool name.
It's really cool, and it's only tiny, but it's just packed. The walls are just packed with boxes and boxes and boxes of buttons, every sort of button you could ever want. And we went in one day when we were there for a day trip, and Bryony chose a load of buttons, and she chose little sparkly ones. I'm holding it totally wrong because everything's backwards. Little sparkly buttons, and there's one on the back as well, which is the one that's come undone. There she is.
She's lovely.
So that's Mrs. Bakery Bear.
That sounded all Welsh then.
You did sound Welsh.
She's lovely.
She's lovely.
Do you know what?
What?
I don't think I've ever asked you why you knit.
Well, well, my mum taught me to knit. Is how I learned, I suppose. I was about 9, I think.
Hey, we should have showed that cardie she made.
Oh God.
That's amazing.
Well,
maybe we might show it at the end just for fun.
Maybe. It's just, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I asked, before I started knitting again properly, I asked my mum to knit me this cardigan, and it was a beautiful cardigan, and it's like an Aran cardi. It's all over cable pattern, and it's in a grey marled wool. But of course at the time I didn't realise the importance of getting the right yarn, and I got a yarn which was heavier than the pattern, and Mum didn't check a gauge because I don't think she'd even know what that was to do a gauge swatch. So she just started off and got going. Well, it was absolutely enormous, isn't it?
It is enormous. It would fit me, and I think we show it.
I actually look like a character of Star Wars because it's got a hood.
It's very cool.
And it's, you know, it is massive, and luckily it was knit in pieces, and I said to her that I'd sew all the pieces together because she hated doing that, so she never actually saw it completely on me, and I just told her that it was really nice, and I wore it and everything, and it was lovely.
Scarred for life she is.
Yeah. So back to why I knit. Mum taught me when I was about 9, and she just taught me like everyone else, I suppose, just to knit.
Did she used to knit stuff for shops? And it used to go in the window?
Yes.
So she must have been pretty damn good.
She was very good, and she used to do. She doesn't knit so much these days because she's got really bad arthritis in her hands. She does still a little bit, but she just can't do what she used to do. And her gauge is really loose these days as well, and I think that was half the problem with that cardigan. She used to knit fabulous Aran jumpers, you know, fully cabled, and she did loads of colour work, and she did everything, but she just doesn't do it anymore, and she misses it. I can tell she misses it. I ordered her some wool the other day because she wanted to knit herself something, and she didn't have any wool, and she didn't have any good yarn shops near her at all. It's just all acrylic. And so Mum taught me when I was 9, and... But
then you weren't knitting when I met you.
No. I used to do cross stitch, and you can probably see there's a couple actually. Yes, you can. There's a K there that I did years ago. There's a B for Bryony, that's our daughter, and then there's another one just there. But no, I cross stitched. I didn't really knit again until about 5 years ago.
What made you pick up the old needles?
It was Bryony, because I wanted to make her something basically. And
what, you mean not cakes?
No, not cakes. I try not to make too many cakes these days. But I just wanted to make her something, and I just thought, well, why don't I just try knitting a toy for her? So. And
is that Climby Bear?
That's Climby Bear, yeah.
So that was your first.
I should have brought Climby Bear in. He's a bit tragic.
What pattern was that?
It's a pattern in a book that I've got back here actually by Laura Long.
Right.
And it's a toy. It's a very good book, and I've knit quite a lot from it. And it's basically just like a little bear, and it's knit in pieces, and it's all knit flat and seamed up. And when I knit it, I just picked up some wool from boys in town, so it wasn't a really good quality wool or anything, and I knew nothing about wool, and I did it on straight needles. I didn't even know what a circular needle was. And I knit her a little bear, didn't I? And she absolutely loved it, and she still loves it.
She's very cool.
Yeah.
So she'll be she'll be about 5 years old.
Yeah, she's about 5 years old.
So you could say that she's the mother of all the other bears.
She's the mother bear. Mother bear! No, there's a mother bear project. That sounds quite good. Yeah, she is. And that kind of got me started, and then I knit about 5 of those, I think. I just got different wools and just carried on knitting them. I started wanting to kind of make my own little pattern up, didn't I? And so I made modifications to it and made various different little bears. There's dozens in Bryony's room. But then I did want to sort of expand my knitting knowledge, if you like, because I really enjoyed it, and I really like making things for other people, I guess, is my favourite thing to do, rather than knitting for myself. So I just kind of, I think I bought that book with the bears in, and I knit a doll, Polly Dolly.
There's a few of those now,
I've knit Polly Dolly about 9 times now, I think.
And is that the same?
She's a great pattern.
Designer?
It's the same designer, Laura Long.
Laura Long.
I was just, oh no, I haven't got that one, but this one is by the same lady. And I haven't knit any of these yet, but so that's the same lady, Laura Long, and that's actually, that bear is actually Climby Bear.
Oh.
But she just made it into a panda.
That's clever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're very good books. Then I'd kind of been knitting for a little while, hadn't I? And then the lady in my local yarn shop asked me if I was on Ravelry, and I had no idea what she was talking about. So I looked it up and I did join, but I did nothing. I didn't have a clue what it was, and I did nothing with it for probably a year. It just sat there, and I barely, went on. And I just carried on knitting the little things that I was knitting.
That's actually maybe a good point, because people will be wondering, where are we? Well, we're very lucky. We live very close to the Yorkshire Dales.
Yeah.
We can be sort of in the heart of the Yorkshire Dales in about 10 or 15 minutes. And what's so cool about that is there's lots of sheep.
There are lots of sheep, and I do wish there were more yarn shops, actually. There are a couple, and I have got some wool from them that
There's
are really...
that great one, isn't there? Near Midland. Wensleydale Long Wool Shop, is
Yeah,
it?
that's the one.
Did I remember the name? Is that what it's called?
Wensleydale Long Wool Sheep Shop.
Oh, close.
Yeah. And it's
Close.
a really cute little shop, and it's just on the farm, and it's these 2 ladies that run it. We struggled to find it, didn't we, the first time?
Yeah. I've Google mapped it now, though, so we can always get back.
So yeah, we're in the north of England. Not only did she kind of get me into Ravelry, she also got me into the whole podcast world. So of course I went searching for a podcast. I remember I was doing the ironing one day, and I thought, oh, I'll have a look. The first one I found was Knittables, was Diane from Knittables, and I loved it.
Look, woman.
What? Am I running away? Am I getting ahead of myself?
We've got a whole segment all about podcasts. We know your life story. We know when you were born. We know everything. I think people might be wondering that there is a strapping young man sat next to you.
Oh, are they?
What question is on their lips, Kay?
Why do you knit,
Thank
Dan?
you. Thank you. Well, my mum taught me to knit.
I didn't know that.
She did.
Your mum taught you to knit?
She
I
did.
thought I taught you to knit. Right, okay, I believe you. Because I know your mum knits. I believe you.
Yes. My mum knit me, I can remember it really well. It's a grey jumper. It was garter stitch.
Right.
With obviously...
Ribbing.
Sorry. With ribbing on the bottom and on the sleeves. And then on the front, it was grey. It was like a light grey. It was really nice. Not too warm.
Are you sure it was garter stitch?
It was just plain knitting.
That's stocking stitch.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just do the stitches.
Garter stitch is all knits. Knit.
Okay.
Stocking stitch is knit a row, purl a row. But when you do it in the round, it looks like that. And it's all knits.
So that's stocking stitch?
That's stocking stitch.
Okay, it was stocking stitch.
Right.
Yes. And on the front there were squares. Grey squares, slightly darker than the back.
Right.
And pink squares.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was intarsia.
And I was about...
This sounds quite complicated.
I was about 12, 13. So quite the...
Oh my gosh.
Quite
I
the
bet you
fashionable
look
chap.
quite the...
Yes. And unfortunately, I have quite a large head, and she didn't know how to do a top that would, that would let my head through.
Right.
I mean, I've got loads of jumpers now. Or I've got some jumpers now where I can pull them on and not have a problem.
Could she not do like buttons or something?
Well, yeah. That's exactly what she did. So there was I remember down
Yeah,
the...
a little opening
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
That's
down
cute.
the side there, and there was mother of pearl
Oh.
buttons on there. But yeah, I just felt a bit stupid with it because I had a thing about my head and it being big, and my friends would ask why the buttons were there. But it got me, strangely, it got me interested in knitting. And she taught me how to knit, but all I could do was just knit squares on straight needles, on straight nylon needles.
Nylon?
Well, the plastic jobs.
Oh, plastic,
I'm sorry. And then I'd never knit again. So probably from the age of 12 up until the age of 36, never even considered it. And then, well, yeah, you did teach me to knit properly.
I did.
And that was about 2 years ago.
Coming up, well, yeah, maybe coming up for 2 years, isn't it?
2 years ago in September. And strangely, I knit because it's the only thing I've ever done that completely relaxes me. I mean, completely. It's like, in my head, it's like slightly being a bit drunk. It's very strange.
Is it?
Yeah, it's great. I think because there's so much going on in my head all the time.
That's true.
Oh, there certainly was. I think things have changed in the last few weeks.
But your head is always busy, yeah.
I don't think it's as busy as it was, and I think that's why in the last 6 weeks I've not knit as much as I have done over the last 2 years.
Because you've not needed it as much, have you?
I'd still need it because I'm really enjoying doing this today.
Yeah.
Why do I knit? I knit because I needed to find a way to relax. You showed me how to do it, and the reason why I took to it was I am a drummer, so I'm used to hitting drums and things with sticks. And it just feels natural. And the other thing as well that's really shocked me is specifically on the honey cowl, which I love doing. It's my favourite, I think. Although I do like this hat. What pattern's this hat?
It's just the Turner Square, I think, by Jared Flood.
I love the honey cowl because it's repetitive, but then it changes.
Yeah.
And that's just like playing music.
Yeah.
So I knit to relax, but I love doing it. I love creating things, and I like you. I love giving them to people.
You've not knit anything for yourself yet, have you?
No, I don't knit for me.
No, you don't.
I will never knit for me. I will only ever knit.
You shouldn't say never, should you?
Well, no, I would never say never, I suppose. But I like knitting for other people.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
I mean, and that, yeah.
I mean, I'll show what I'm doing later. But this is a Christmas present, and the things I've knit previously have been for you, and we'll show that later, and for Bryony, and for my mum that she loves.
Yeah. Your mum thinks you're amazing. She takes everything that you make to her local sewing and knitting group.
She does.
And she shows it. Look what my son made.
She lives in Somerset, which is a long way from It's about 5 hours from here. It's another lovely part of the world.
But it really is a trek to get there.
They're a real trek to get there. But it's like lovely small communities, and they all come together, and they didn't they cross, was it cross-stitch the Bayer tapestry?
No, she embroidered.
Embroidered.
And it wasn't is it Bayer or Bayer tapestry? I think it's Bayer.
Probably.
Tapestry, but it was something similar, and they did it for some show or something. It might have been the twinning.
They're twinned with a village in France, and
Yeah.
every year they go to each other's, and there was some centenary or something or other.
Yeah, so they all did a section of.
And they gave it to the people in France, and it's on display.
Oh, that's right, like
in France.
The Bayer tapestry, and it was just amazing. And she just basically, they gave her a piece of linen, and the picture. And she drew it on. She's a very good artist, isn't she? And she drew the picture onto the linen, and then did all these amazing different types of embroidery stitches.
Yeah.
I was just completely blown away.
Such an interesting gift, though, to give.
It was
to
absolutely
them.
beautiful.
It's really beautiful, but I'm just thinking about what it is. They gave, because I'm sure it was to do with William the Conqueror.
It was along those lines. Hers had like a ship on it, and
that'd be them coming over.
Maybe
from
so.
France.
Yeah, it had a big ship, and there were people on the ship, and yeah.
So that is why we both knit. And now we're going to move on to a really exciting section of our show called What's on Your Needles? And I think because you have about 1 million things on the go,
I do not.
You should start.
This is untrue.
Kay Jones, what's on your needles?
Well, the first thing on my needles is what I'm knitting on. And this is a sock.
Is it for me?
No.
Oh, okay. I'll just carry on.
I've only knit you about 25 pairs of socks.
Doesn't matter.
And I've just
And how many have you knit for yourself? There is a mountain of socks in the bedroom, and they're all yours.
I think there's not a mountain.
Okay. A small
just
hillock.
Just a small hillock of socks. I am quite addicted to socks, it's got to be said. But saying that, right, this is the Hermione's everyday sock. Oh, that's quite a good picture of it. I always knit my socks top down. I should do it that way, shouldn't I? I always knit them top down with a heel flap and gusset. It's one of my favourite patterns. I've knit this, I think this is the 3rd time I've knit it, and I think everybody's made a pair of, it's gone really bright, I'm sorry.
It's a nice day out there.
For a change,
yes.
It's unusual. This looks a bit weird. It's a bit big, this. It came out really big.
It's my Han Solo cowl.
All right, okay.
I love this. I was feeling a bit nippy. Thought I'd pop it on for a minute. I had a costume change.
So, I'm knitting another pair of Hermione's for me, and this is my...
Is that after Hermione Granger?
I presume so. Right. Yeah, she did a whole range of socks. It's
right.
Erica Luda is the designer. It's a free pattern on Ravelry.
Has she done, what's the big fella called?
She's done Snape stockings.
No, but you know the really big fella?
Hagrid. No, there isn't a Hagrid.
She should do some Hagrid socks.
She should do Hagrid
They're
socks.
Like massive.
Yeah,
there's a sleeping bag.
There isn't any Hagrid socks. And I'm doing these exactly to the pattern with the Eye of Partridge heel. Dan has no clue what I am talking about.
Yeah, I'm learning.
It's Eye of Partridge. It's really pretty. Oh, you can see that really well, actually. Can you see how that looks different, Dan, to how you normally do?
Yes.
How I normally do yours?
Yes.
It's similar. You just.
How do you knit that?
What do you mean?
What do you do?
Well, it's very similar. It's a slip stitch heel, but instead of doing all your slip stitches in a row,
yeah,
you alternate them, you offset them.
Okay.
So it creates like a crisscrossy grid.
Cool.
And it looks really pretty. It takes a bit more concentration, but it comes out really pretty. And I'm knitting these out of my very, very favourite sock yarn that I love, and I just think it's the best in the world.
And what is that?
I've got some back here actually, because I bought some to knit some for you. It's the Uncommon Thread Tough Sock.
Where's that from?
It's from the Uncommon Thread. They have an online
where's that?
shop. It's the British.
Huh?
I can't remember where she is, and I was going to look that up.
No, but that's
I can't
cool.
remember where she is in the country, but it's British.
Cool.
And
can I feel it?
It's 80% BFL, Blueface Leicester, 20% nylon. You get 365 metres. So it's not actually as long.
That sounds like a lot.
The skeins aren't as long as like Opal
right.
or the Osterman Step, which is
right.
what I normally knit your socks in that you really like when
right.
I knit those.
Right.
So I actually bought 2 of these because Dan's got massive feet.
Yeah, and I have got to say actually, since you started knitting me socks, it's the first time I've had socks that fit. And when I wear them in shoes, which is very rare, they feel totally different. It's worth doing.
Yeah, he's got huge feet. He's got his foot is like 12.5 inches long.
And I think as well, when you consider people's insteps and how you can knit to fit that, it's surely
you do a
everyone
longer.
should knit socks.
Because I've got a really high instep, haven't I? And I tend to knit the heel flap a little bit longer, just to account for that. But this colourway that I'm knitting, it's the same yarn. It's coming out a little bit brighter than it actually is. But this one is called Les Fleurs. The flowers, presumably. This one is Smudge.
Cool. And
I've got 2 skeins of that. But I'm kind of struggling. It's a little bit lighter than that, actually. It's more of a grey brown. I'm struggling to find a pattern. At first I thought I wanted to do something cabley with it. Now I've kind of changed my mind, and I think I'm either going to do the Roger sock, which I know it sounds a bit weird. Amy's just knit Darren some of the, I think they were for Darren? Yeah, Amy on Knitting in Circles, she just knits them anyway, so that's the first thing on my needles, is that.
Okay, Jones, what else is on your needles?
Well, it's not like we can even alternate, because you've just got one thing on your needles.
Yeah, because what are you called when you just knit one project and it's finished? You
are...
Monogamous?
No, monogamous, yes.
There you go.
And I'm polygamous.
Okay.
Polygamous, I think I hope that's the word. So that's the first thing. This, I literally just cast this on the other day because I had a knitting epiphany. I was listening to the 2 Knitlit Chicks, and they've just done a knit along for ponchos. And I kind of dismissed it when I first heard they were doing it, because I just thought I'd never wear a poncho in a million years. I've never worn one, I don't think. No. But then I suddenly thought, I don't like wearing dressing gowns. And so when I put my pyjamas on, I usually just put on like a cardigan on top of it. And I thought, oh my gosh, I could totally knit a poncho to wear with my pyjamas. And I've got this yarn that I've tried to knit into about 4 different jumpers and failed each time for various reasons.
Where's it from?
It's Madeline Tosh.
Where will the wool be from? If it's
This is from Loop in London. So this is, again, the colour's not going to come up brilliant, I don't think. It's Madeline Tosh DK, and it's in the dried rose colour.
It's beautiful, actually.
It's really nice. It's like
subtle.
a brownie reddy. And I literally have just cast this on. I mean, it's really unexciting to look at. And I'm doing the Easy Folded Poncho by Church Mouse Yarns and Tees. And this is the one that Barb from the Two Knit Lick Chicks has just knit. And it's basically just a huge rectangle that you then seam up and leave a space for your head, and you've done.
It's a good start, isn't it? I'm sure it will.
Well, I'm only going to wear it.
Into.
I'm not going to become a poncho wearer, I can't imagine.
Well, you don't know till you put it on.
Well, I don't know, no. So I've literally just cast that on, and because I just got so excited, I was like, poncho! I need to knit a poncho. So that's that. What's on your needles, Dan?
Well, how many times have I knit this hat?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
2 or 3 times,
Two
maybe?
or 3 times.
What's the wool?
It's Rowan Pure Wool Aran. It's just 100% wool. It doesn't say what breed of wool it is, but I kind of think it must be a merino. It's really soft.
It's great to knit with. Have I knit with this before?
No.
Right.
I made a jumper for myself out of that.
You did, I remember. Yeah. And it's a lovely jumper,
It
actually.
is, yeah.
I really, really, really like this wool.
It's really nice wool. And
this is a Christmas present.
It's superwash Aran. And they do lots of different really nice colours, and it's just a nice yarn, and I think it would be great for I had one ball.
How long have I been
over.
knitting on circulars with hats? Because when I started I was using...
Straights? No, not for hats you weren't.
What did I use?
You did use
on the decreases.
Oh, DPNs.
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 Yeah.
But I'm going to show you how to do the decreases using Magic Loop.
Didn't I do that on the last hat?
No, you didn't do it on the last one. You used DPNs.
I really like DPNs.
Well, yeah.
Why do I like DPNs?
I don't know.
I think you know where you are on a DPN.
Yeah, I just find Magic Loop a lot simpler because you've only got that one needle and you can't drop, because I'm a dropper. I drop everything, don't I?
See, I'm a drummer, so I can't drop things.
No, that's true. Maybe that's what it is then. I was forever dropping down the side of the sofa. So that's why I like Magic Loop. So I was going to show you how to do the decreases using Magic Loop on that one. See if you like it.
It's a really straightforward hat pattern, isn't it?
Very simple hat pattern, but works, and it's really, it's really nice.
And it's comfortable too.
Very comfortable. Yeah, you've knit me 2 of those.
Yeah.
Purple one out of the Plucky Knitter, which is left over from that cardigan I made, and a green one that I always wear.
Kay Jones, what's on your needles?
You don't have to keep saying my surname.
Sorry.
I don't know that that's necessary. Right.
Sorry.
I've only recently cast this one on, and I've always wanted to knit a lightweight cardigan, and the only thing that's put me off is just that it's miles and miles and miles of really fine yarn.
Who's this for?
Me.
Ah. Right.
It's unusual that everything I've got on my needles is actually for me. That it is unusual. It really is. Ignoring it really is unusual. So I am knitting the featherweight cardigan, which is a hugely popular pattern. I'm pretty sure that everybody will know what the featherweight cardigan is. There's the featherweight. But I'm going to knit it much longer. I really liked the one that Gail from the Yarniacs knit a while back, and hers had really wide stripes, and hers was like a maroon and a grey. So I asked her how many rows she did on each of her stripes so that I could copy her basically. So I'm using Tosh Merino Light in Antler and Posy, and I think they look really nice. I'm a pink girl. I love pink. And I only cast this on, gosh, I don't know, it only seems a few days ago. And I am here.
Beautiful.
It's rolling a little bit, but you can see I'm down to the bit.
It's very light, isn't it?
It's very light, yeah. And I'm actually knitting a size slightly bigger than I normally would because my gauge came out a little bit smaller.
Right.
And my needles, we've not said what needles we're using, have we?
What needles am I using?
You're using the same as me, you're using Knit Pros. In America they're Knit Picks, but the Knit Pros.
I love these.
You like wood, don't you?
I cannot stand. I use metal.
You use metal.
Don't
You
like
didn't
metal.
like them at all.
I don't really like
the plastic ones either.
No, you
I
like
really
wood,
like
and
wood.
I like wood. And I did start this on a metal needle, but because this is a single ply, everyone will know it's slippy. I found it really slippy, so I changed it onto my Knit Pros, and I'm away. So I'm really enjoying that one.
Is there anything else on your needles?
I might have one other thing. Actually,
There is one other thing.
I've got two other things, but the other one I'm
No.
not working at the moment. What?
Less is more.
Well, there's only 4, I think.
There's one more thing that you need to show.
What?
Because it's super cool.
So
Yay!
I cast this on yesterday. I wanted to see what... I just suddenly thought that a lot of people knit their toys from Dancing Dog Dye Works yarn. And I'd got a skein. I've only ever owned 2 skeins of Dancing Dog Dye Work, and they were both the same colourway. I got a sock weight and I got the waltz. I have trouble saying that. Waltz.
Well, I just go with waltz. And
It's not waltz.
well,
Waltz. All
it's
right.
always done me.
Waltz worsted. And I got these a while back in the... It was a kit with Girl Cave bags, and I got a bag, a matching bag, which is down there somewhere. And I got this as a kit. So it's the Girl Cave bag colourway. It's pinks and green and white with a pink. It says mini skein, but it's huge to me. And I also got that in sock weight, and I've knit socks from it already actually. So this was my last skein of Dancing Dog Dye Works, and I thought I'm going to knit one of my bears, one of my little bears, using it just to see how it came out. I just thought it might be fun, and it's really cute. So I've only done the head, so it might look a bit...
When did you start that though? Yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah.
Not bad going.
So I've done a little head. Oh, hello! There she is.
That sounded like someone off a kids' programme.
Did I? Well, it's
Yeah.
not surprising, isn't it? Look.
No.
Look,
Mrs. Doubtfire. Oh, hello,
Oh, I did
everybody.
sound... Hello, children. No. So that... I'm going off the other... Everything's backwards on the camera. I can't get used to this. So there she is. So I've done the little head, and I think it's really cute.
What's so interesting about that is I think you thought the colourway might be too busy.
Well, I did, and
And
I
it
was
totally
worried.
isn't.
I was worried about pooling. I've got a real obsession about things pooling, and I just do not like it. If anything,
Me neither.
You've no idea what I'm talking
None
about,
at all.
have you?
None
Well,
at
I'll explain it, because
Please do.
you know there could be new knitters and they've no idea what I'm talking about either. So when you get a hand-dyed yarn, and I'll get one to show you. I'll put one up here that I've used recently, because I started some socks for Dan. See? I started some socks for Dan with this yarn recently, and it just started pooling like absolute crazy. So I'll show you the yarn. Oh no. Again, the colours are not coming up. It's blues and greens and like a deep purple. And this is, I got this from my local yarn shop when she was having a trunk show from Ripples Crafts in the north of Scotland. And it's lovely yarn, and I was drawn to it because it's superwash BFL and nylon, which is my absolute favourite for socks. I think it just wears brilliantly well. So I was so excited, and I got home and I literally cast them on as soon as I got home. And what happens when it pools is, with hand-dyed yarn, you'll get a section there that's green, and then a section that's purple, and then blue, and it repeats itself around the skein. And as you're knitting around your sock, depending on your gauge and depending on how many stitches you've got and things like that, the same colour will meet.
Right.
At
I
that
know exactly what
point.
you mean now.
And you'll get a whole wedge
Yep.
of that colour, instead of it being, as it looks in the skein, being like lovely and variegated. And this was doing it. So I literally just couldn't face knitting a massive 12-inch sock when it was pooling like that. So I pulled it out, and this will have to become, I don't know, a shawl or something maybe, or I might even double the yarn and do like some thick socks, because that might stop it pooling. And then another example, I got this one recently. This was my gift for looking after you when you were poorly.
Thank you.
I treated myself to some Blue Moon Socks That Rock. The Loop shop in London that I mentioned have just started stocking this, and everybody talks about this, and I'm like, oh, I've got to have some. But the only thing is, and I knew this when I bought it, is there's no nylon in it, and I didn't know that until when I looked this up.
So they're going to wear badly, aren't they?
Yeah, there's no nylon in them. So I'm going to make, instead of that, I'm going to make a shawl out of it because I don't want to knit socks and then them get a hole. So I'm going to make a shawl and I'm going to do...
Because those socks won't rock if they hold.
They won't rock. But saying that, you know, and I should maybe ask the question, has anybody had problems with getting holes in your socks, with socks that rock? And this is the Fire on the Mountain colourway, which is kind of like a huge rainbow, I think, really, but it's just beautiful. I love it. It's a very heavy skein, and that makes me think it's a very tight twist, and that will help with wearing. And I would use a small needle. I normally do socks on 2.5mm, sometimes 2.25, and it does say 2.25 on these. But I was going to knit another jewelled cowl, like this one, with beads out of it, and I've just ordered some gold coloured beads, so I could do that.
Can we move on to our next section?
Yes, sorry.
No, it's fine. Because I'm sure the people at home want to see what's off your needles.
What's off my needles? I've just finished my Pagona shawl, which has just been literally the shawl that never ended until it did. And here it is. Oh, it looks lovely on the screen. I think there, can you see it?
It looks like a butterfly.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
And
Very
the
pretty.
only issue, I mean, it's beautiful, and I was pleased because I used, sorry darling, I used all but like 2 grams of the yarn. I really wanted to make sure I used it all, and I had literally like over 500 stitches. I got a hole under my arm, no. Literally had 500 stitches.
No.
On the needles when I got to the end, and I was like, oh my gosh. But it came out lovely, and the yarn is beautiful, and this was a gift from my friend Sally. She went to Hawaii last summer. I think it was last summer, or maybe last spring. And she bought me a skein of yarn, and I've not got the tag. It's on my Ravelry project page if you wanted to look it up. It's a Hawaiian brand of yarn, and it's merino wool and bamboo. So the bamboo makes it lovely and drapey.
Beautiful.
So that was my Pagona.
Hold on. Because what's off my needles?
What's off your
We'll come back to you.
needles?
This is a honey cowl. And I must have knit 4 or 5 of these now.
And what I really like about this, as I said before, is the way the pattern works. But also what I'm really pleased about is my gauge. When I first started knitting, my gauge was very tight.
Very tight knitter.
Yeah, I think it's just really, it's interesting how just by knitting, I mean, up until 6 weeks ago, I was knitting every night for probably 45 minutes. And it's interesting just by doing that, how my gauge really settled down. And yeah,
It's beautiful. I mean, it really is beautiful.
And this is for you.
And it's mine, and I've worn it loads.
And I knit one of these as well for my mum in a really, was it purple?
No, it was the dark blue.
Oh,
you
okay.
knit that one in Malabrigo Rios in Paris Night, which is a dark blue for your mum, dark blue tonal. And that one this is the Uncommon Thread Lush Worsted, which is really beautiful. It's got some cashmere in it, and it's really gorgeous.
It's probably, I would say, my favourite.
It's really
that
nice
I've knit
yarn. It's really nice yarn.
It feels strong. And
it's so soft.
You knit me one of these, didn't you?
I did.
In a similar colour?
Yeah, a similar colour. I use Malabrigo Worsted, which is
Yeah.
another one of my favourites. I really love that. I love single ply, and I know it pills, and I know you have all those issues, but I just love knitting with it.
This is my favourite one there that you knit me.
It came out really big, and this is Fibre Spates. It's not scrumptious. Vivacious DK.
What's so great about this is, it's not cold here today. It's not hot here today. It's typical English weather. It goes from being warm to quite cold, and this it breathes, and it keeps you warm, and it keeps you cool, and it does everything. I love this.
It just came out a bit big.
Well,
even for you, I think it's a bit big.
if you put a coat over the top of it, then it sort of holds it down, and
It's stretched the yarn. It's stretched like crazy.
I really like it.
I just finished these socks for Bryony. She's doing her first Holy Communion. Bryony's our daughter, we never said, and she's 8, going on 9. And she does her first Holy Communion next month now. And I wanted to make her something for it. And I didn't want to do like a shawl because children are not going to wear. She's not going to wear a shawl, you know, and that's a lot of work. So I've knit her a pair of socks to wear. And here they are, just little white ankle socks. And I really struggled to find just plain white sock yarn. And this is Sublime Cashmere Merino 4-ply. Really nice yarn. And the pattern is called Bryony Socks.
Wow.
I know, I couldn't believe it. And it's just a really pretty lace, simple lace. And the only thing was I added a rib. It didn't have a rib, it had just like a rolled brim, and I wanted some nice ribbing. So I just finished those for her, and I've stopped her wearing them just so that they're nice for June, and then she can do what she likes with them, because she does like them. So that's the other thing I've just finished.
I think it's time that we started to talk about the whole reason why we're here.
Why we're here?
Yes. Who are the Bakery Bears? It's called the Bakery Bears. Well, we're at the Bakery Bears cottage. I suppose this is the Bakery Bears podcast, and I'm sure the vast majority of people who are watching are thinking, who are the Bakery Bears? Yes. So, what are the Bakery Bears, I suppose, is the question.
My little bear, isn't it? I created this bear, again, about 4 years ago. When I was making the bears, I just thought it'd be nice. I just started playing around with different patterns and changing things on patterns, and I remember I picked up a little mouse, a little knitted mouse in a craft fair we went to a few years ago, and the feet of it fascinated me, and I just couldn't work out how they'd been knit, because it created a really cute little foot. And so I unpicked it all to find out how, this person...
Did you stitch it back together?
I did stitch it back together again.
I was going to say, I was a bit heartbroken.
I stitched it back together again, but I was just fascinated. I wanted to work out how this foot had been knit, and I took it apart and I found out how it had been knit, and then I just started trying to make my own, because feet, part of it, were my sort of first obsession. I wanted to get the foot looking like a foot, because a lot of patterns, the foot is just kind of, there's not a lot of shaping to it, and it just didn't really look like a proper foot to me. So I just tried and just changed it, and eventually I got it to look like a foot, and I was happy with it. And then I changed, that I made I designed my own little body, and the arms look different, and so I basically just sort of made up my own little bear. And
I mean, it's gone through
it's gone through a whole, and I've got a whole range of bears in Bryony's room from the beginning.
Back there.
Yeah, I know, I've done all these recently, from the beginning of where it started to how it looks now, and it's a lot different. Like, I knit your mum some, didn't I, a couple of Christmases ago, and hers looked totally different to the ones that I now make, because I finally got happy with the pattern. So I've made some, and I've gifted a lot, and
gifted loads, haven't you?
Gifted loads and loads and loads,
all over the world,
and
really.
a few people have wanted to buy some. So the odd friend has bought one from me.
It's not just friends, though, is it? I mean, it's...
No, my sister asked me to make a bride and a groom bear for a friend when she was getting married, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have no idea how to do that. So I did, and it's on my project page, and they came out really nicely. So, and then, people started saying to me, do you have a pattern? And I made one for Diane from Knittables, and I sent it to her, and she loved it.
How long ago was
really
that? That
sweet.
must be...
It'll be 2 Christmases ago, I think.
Where?
This coming Christmas,
Yeah.
I think. It's 2 Christmases ago.
So Holly Bear is
she,
2 years old nearly.
Yeah, and she asked me, have you got a pattern? And I had absolutely no intention of ever writing down the pattern, because it's literally, it was on, scraps of paper, and I've got 2 or 3 books down there with the head was here and the legs were over here, and and it was all in my head as well. And I had absolutely no intention. I kept saying, didn't I? And I feel really bad because people keep asking me if I'm going to do the pattern.
I think you were quite protective over it,
I was very protective.
Because you created it.
Yeah, and it was for
Bryony.
It was for Bryony, and it was really personal. And she loved the little bear. She loves the little bears. We've always called her Bryony Bear, and that's why that's my Ravelry name. And that's her little nickname, and she's always been Bryony Bear. But I got to a point a few months ago, and she's a bit older now, she's almost 9, and she still loves the bears. She's still obsessed with, bears and soft toys. But, she actually said to me one day, she said, it might be nice if other people could knit, a bakery bear. So I thought, oh, okay, well, if she thinks that, maybe I'll think about having a look at the pattern. And I had no idea, really, how long a process it is to write a pattern, and it's taken me a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And and I test. I haven't had people sort of test knitting it, only because...
Well, you wouldn't need, because there's 4,000 of them next door.
Only because I've literally knit. And my friend Sally asked me recently, how many do you think you've knit? And I looked on Ravelry, because they're not all on there by any means, and the ones I've gifted, and it must be 50 or 60. I kind of know that the pattern works, and I was happy from that point of view, and it was just a matter really of getting it down and in a format that people my main concern is I wanted to get across how I piece things together and how I put in the eyes. And I mean, I'll show you, I use beads for her eyes. I mean, how I put in the eyes to make them look like she's got little eye sockets, and how I do the nose and how you describe all that. So I just set to it really, and Dan helped me, and I really could not have done it without him because I'm not good on computers. So I went through a long process, and eventually we got it down to a stage where I was happy, and I took lots of photos, and just getting that portion of it right so that the photos were clear and you could see, because I think it's easier if you can see what you're trying to get to. I think it's easier to then do it rather than it just being described. I think it's the visual side of it was important. So we got to a stage where it was all down and I was happy with it. And this little bear is the one that's pictured on the pattern.
Who is she?
She's Mrs. Bakery Bear, and there is of course a Mr. Bakery Bear. But the pattern is there and in my head, and he's obviously wearing man clothes, boy clothes. But Mrs. Bakery Bear comes first, and Mr. Bakery Bear is still in the bakery.
And he might come out.
He might come out.
Because you're super nervous about this, aren't you, really?
I am really nervous about the pattern. I'm really, really nervous, and that's really what stopped me, in that I didn't want people to struggle with the pattern and not be happy with the pattern. And
I think also as well, instinctively, you're not a confident person.
No.
And this again, I come back to the music thing. It is like creating something musically, and you become you just want people to love them as much.
I want people
as
to
we
love them, and I love them, and I do, and that is the thing. I just want people to enjoy the pattern and to be able to make something hopefully that looks like her. And I've got a number back here in different yarns, actually, because that's the other thing. I have tried different yarns, and
I think the really great thing as well about this is they've been well played with, haven't they?
They have been well played with,
and we know that they're durable too.
Yeah, I mean they do. They do obviously have buttons, and they do have beads, but I've never had, in the 5 years, Bryony's not rough on things, but even so, I've never had any eyes that come out, because they're sewn in such a way that really, it's. And I wouldn't say they're a toy that you would give to a very small child anyway. You're looking at least 4 or 5 years old, I would think. So I tried out different yarns. And usually, this is one, I use Cascade 220 for the bear, and she's knit from Cascade 220. The clothes I've always used a bamboo cotton blend, which is a DK, and I use King Cole, which is a British manufacturer. King Cole bamboo cotton DK, but it would work as long as you've got a worsted weight yarn and DK weight cotton or cotton blend. For the clothes, you should be absolutely fine. So she's Cascade 220. This one is Quince & Company Lark, which worked really well. I really liked that yarn. I've got another one. Oh, I haven't got it here actually. It's the one that I gave to my mum. It is on my Ravelry page, but I also used Rowan Pure Wool Worsted, which is a new yarn. I used this one to make one as well.
So the pattern is done.
The pattern is done.
When? Where can we get it?
Well, it will be available.
I want one.
I'll charge you.
Actually,
it will be available.
I don't think I'd be good enough to knit it.
Oh well.
What type of knitter?
I would say so if you've knit a toy before, you should be okay. An intermediate knitter, I would say.
Right.
I wouldn't say it's for a beginner. All of the pieces for the bear are knit in the round, and I use Magic Loop. I've never tried it on DPNs, but I would have thought you could, but I would recommend Magic Loop. So apart from the ears, the 2 ears are knit flat. Everything else is knit Magic Loop. The shoes are knit flat and then seamed. And the dress is knit flat and then just a little seam up the back. So I would say an intermediate knitter. If you've knit a few toys before, you should be absolutely fine. I
think the thing I love the most about these bears is when they're knit, specifically when you use different types of wool and put different dresses on. Whilst it's in essence it's the same.
Yeah.
They look different.
They do.
And they have different.
Yeah, they do have different characters, and I always do the head. I usually do the head first because I'll do the head and think, oh, is it a girl or a boy? And
like
decide when I see.
That nose.
Yeah, the nose has always come out a little bit different.
That's so cool.
Quite often I rip out the nose and redo it because it's not quite right. But sometimes, like that one, which one? That one's not quite perfect.
Yeah.
And I kind of left it because it gives a bit of character.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've done boy
They're
ones.
like real little people.
This was a very early bear. This was a very, very early one. This is Francisco. He was really early.
That's fun to say.
That's fun to say. We're like Elf. You can tell that's why it was cut. I think I was knitting him when Elf was on.
Francisco.
So and look at his nose. I mean, he's very wonky. He's a very early incarnation of my bears. But he's been well loved. And the feet are different to how they do them now. This is what I showed you how it's changed. And this was actually knit flat and seamed. And then I decided to try knitting them in the round, and I like it much better. And you don't get that seam, and it's much more professional. But he was a very early bear.
Yeah, the difference on those legs.
Yeah, there's no seam.
Unbelievable.
Obviously. It just looks more professional.
You so need an elf bear for Christmas.
Elf bear, yeah, I could do that.
That would be so cool.
And this is a little boy. You can see there's a tumble of bears behind me. This one is knit with, I just wanted to say about, we mentioned the Wensleydale Wensleydale long wool sheep shop. It's a long thing, that. But this is Wensleydale wool, and this is from the shop that I mentioned. It's a fairly, it's quite scratchy, and I wouldn't...
Did you make a bear out of?
I have made a bear. Actually, and hairdresser's undone as well.
What have you been doing with these bears?
I know.
Didn't we get some wool from a shop and you said it smelt too sheepy?
Yes, I did.
Did you knit a bear out of that?
No, I didn't.
Right.
It was really, really coarse, and I just couldn't face knitting, because you have to knit your toys really dense, as anybody who's knit a toy will know, and I knit them particularly dense but I like them to be very firm. I like, rather than floppy.
That's clearly made them durable.
Yeah, very durable, and I like the fact that they kind of stand up on your hand, look. And here's a little boy one, and that was a jumper that I designed, and he hasn't got his trousers or anything, and the feet are different, obviously, because they don't have the girly shoes on. Oh gosh, I can't show these very well. There he is. I knit him recently, a little jumper. But this one is out of the Wensleydale wool, but I got some undyed, and I dyed this myself, and it's kind of got a really nice halo. Her feet came out a little bit big. I changed the shoe pattern. Her feet were a little bit big.
So, young lady, the pattern is due out is it tomorrow or Saturday?
Tomorrow. Well, I think we said tomorrow, didn't we, or Saturday? I'm not sure yet. It'll be either tomorrow or Saturday.
And it'll be available
on Ravelry.
Do you have any more bears?
Well, there's Mr. Bakery Bear I'll be doing.
And the design for that, I know I've seen little bits and bobs of things, and
the design is
dramatically... dramatically is the wrong word, but it's very different to the boy bears that you've just shown. Because what you're talking about, trousers?
Oh, we'll have trousers.
Yeah,
and other little bits and bobs.
Yeah.
But I'll just show you, that's the Quinston Company. I mean, you probably all know Quinston Company, but I used Chanterelle. And it used just under a skein. I had about 10 yards left, I think. So you can get a bear easily out of one of those skeins, because they're short skeins. And then that's the wool that I use, very easily available in the UK. And lots of lovely colours. So that's what I use for the clothes. But then I'm also just going to try this one. This is a new one that's just come out, Sirdar Cotton DK. It looks much finer to me than a DK, but I'm told that it plumps up. It's quite hard in the skein. I think it's wound quite tightly. Yeah.
I think it's time to move on to the last section of our podcast.
Okay.
And we couldn't do a podcast that may be our first and last without doing a podcast focus. I want to talk about some of the podcasts which have not just inspired you, but also as a male beginner knitter, what's inspired me as well.
I mean, my top favourite video podcast is Diane from Knittables, because she was the first that I ever watched, and I literally, when I found her, I went back and watched them all from the beginning.
She's super cool.
Yeah, she's very cool, and I love her manner, and I love the way she presents, and her relaxed, casual. And
her animals.
And her animals, yeah, we love her animals.
What's she got? What's that?
Oh, she's crazy with
the
animals.
lizard thingy. What is it?
She's got a I don't know what Henry is. Henry's a new one. I can't remember what sort of lizard he is.
Super cool.
And then she's got a huge one who Gracina is like, again, she'd tell you what, I've never actually seen her, but I know she's a big thing.
Check it out.
Yeah, so Knittables, love it. And then I've got 2 audio, I love audio podcasts as well, because you can listen to them while you're doing other things. You don't have to, be looking at the screen. And I love the Arniacs is my absolute favourite. And also 2 Knitlit Chicks. I always struggle to say that. Because they talk about knitting, but then they also talk about books. And I love podcasts. I particularly like those 3 because they're very packed full of knitting content. And that's what I want out of a knitting podcast, really. Lots and lots of nitty talk.
Is it over to me now?
Is it over to you now? It's your turn. He's very excited.
I'm super excited. My favourite, I'm going to mention 3 as well, actually.
Okay.
And my first one is definitely knitting in circles.
I love knitting in circles too. We watched that together.
Yeah. Darren is my inspiration.
Yeah, he's really cool.
Yeah, he's like complete. It's so great. Not that I don't have a problem at all with watching podcast. Do you know what it is? You do get, like, we take our daughter to school, and I really don't mind talking about what I do. Kay sometimes is a little bit concerned that people will think strange things, won't you? And they do. Like, there's people do think it's odd that...
Oh, that you knit.
That I knit.
I don't really tell anybody that he knits, no.
And I think that's really sad.
It is sad.
Because what's the problem with us knitting? No. Darren, come on. I love knitting in circles completely, but Darren's a real inspiration. Another one that's a real inspiration, and I think it's because historically I've always been a teacher, so I associate very much with Steve from Dramatic Knits. I just think it's so cool. The whole podcast rocks. And also as well, honourable mention from me has got to go to His and Hers. Can you still get access to those?
I'm not sure, actually. I know they just haven't recorded in a long time.
Because I'm not a gamer, although my daughters do love playing Minecraft. So I can game with the best of them.
But we're not really into that scene, are we?
No, we're not at all. But to sit and watch a podcast where it's intense gaming talk married to knitting talk, it's just amazing. It's amazing how they blend that together, and it's just really watchable. So those are my 3 favourites. I think we've come to the end.
We've come to the end.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you would like to say?
I don't think so. Just going back to the pattern, I did put thank yous on the end just to thank a few people. But really, without those people that I've mentioned, I wouldn't be putting the pattern out. And I don't want it to sound like I'm making this into a massive thing. There are so many patterns out there,
and they're all great,
and they're all brilliant. And I've knit so many amazing patterns by designers that just churn out brilliant design after brilliant design. And this is just one pattern, and I don't expect anybody to run out and buy it, and that's not really what it's about. For me, it was just about me going through the process, achieving something that I've had in the back of my mind for a long time, and just getting the pattern out there. To me, I've succeeded, and I don't expect people, anybody who buys it, obviously I think will just be amazing, and I just can't imagine what it's going to be like. Need somebody knitting a pattern that I've wrote and wanting to do that. I just find it just blows my mind a little bit.
You mustn't do yourself a disservice, because I think one of the things that you can never tell with a toy is if it will be played with or not.
Yeah.
And what we know, because we've seen it happen so many times with Bryony, but then with you've knit some for cousins and all sorts.
Yeah.
They're just loved. These things have a spirit. And
Bryony's taking one to school tomorrow for show and tell. She
Yeah.
wanted to take one, didn't she? So I've got to choose one for her.
Can I just say, if there's any male knitters out there, in fact, no, it's not just male knitters. It would be so great. I don't engage with Ravelry as much as I should.
No, you don't.
No. And it's funny because I'm definitely a technical person. But please, friend. Obi-Wan Knitter, make me use Ravelry more, because I think if I had more of a drive to use it, I think I would. Because the last 2 projects, the cowl I knit my mum, I don't think I put on.
Did you not?
I didn't.
I did take a picture of it.
Maybe it's a point to note for the guys at Ravelry that if you're using it, 9 times out of 10, I use it on an iPad or an iPhone, and I do find it hard to get in and out of it.
Do you?
I do.
Oh.
And I use lots of technical things all the time.
And I don't, but...
Which is strange, isn't it? Why I find it
I'm
difficult.
usually absolutely
If I found it easy to engage with, I'd get things on there. Yeah,
Okay.
it's goodbye. And she said goodbye. They should all say goodbye.
Where's she gone? She's disappeared under...
There she is.
Oh, there she is, under a mountain of bears. Bye!
Maybe she'll see you in your house soon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's bye from me. And it's...
We sound like the two Ronnies.
I know. So it's good night from me.
It's good night from him.
Yeah.
Is that what they used
It's good
to
night
say?
from her.
And good night from him.
Yeah, bye.
Sitting and knitting, Stan and Kay, the bakery prayers. Enthusiasm's not quitting, for Stan and Kay, the bakery prayers. They'll take you to fabulous places, of which their favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern, get yourself a bakery pair. You'll find yourself in a castle, watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf or